So I'm here today to talk about how we can use cloud communication in the kind of financial industry to maybe reduce fraud. So first, let's talk about phone verification. So as we all know that just using username and password is not enough. So adding a two-factor authentication in the process might be a way to reduce the fraud. And actually, this could happen in different places in the user flow. It could be at registration time. It could be during some logging or password reset. And obviously during some transaction. But doing phone verification globally is not really easy. Because if you use SMS, for instance, it will give you 65% conversion globally. And it's not easy to get it right. So you will need to have you will need to contract with multiple vendors. You will need to build your own retry logic. You will need to have a routing team to understand what is the best vendor to deliver a message in a given country. You will need to localize because people behave in a different fashion depending on the country. You will need to deal with fixed line and mobile. Maybe you want to have something that works on both, or maybe only on mobile. So the user experience is actually very key. So we have seen some customer using us, using exactly the same route and having a very different type of conversion is because the UI is broken. And also the cost, the total cost of ownership will get to the roof because every time you send something, you will need to pay for it. Then you have multiple vendors, you need to have an ops team that monitor all the vendors and so on. It's very complex to set it up. And also, you only see your data. So sometimes you can see something doesn't work. You believe that is one vendor, so you switch to another. But actually, the problem is your application. And by seeing only your data, you cannot actually figure out that. So actually, what I think here, what we are trying to say is, how do we trust a phone number? So there is a lot of things to look at. So first, what kind of phone number it is? So that's the first step. So when I say what kind of phone number, it could be obviously a landline or a fixed line, but it could be also a VoIP number and or a toll-free number. It's maybe something you want to exclude because you don't think it's right. Then the second phase is really the location. So is the phone number currently connected to the same carrier where it's coming from? Is it roaming? Is it active? So all this type of information could be very interesting for you to make the decision. Or is the customer using a proxy? And maybe the customer is behind the proxy, trying to hide his identity. So all this type of information could be very interesting for you to make the decision. And finally, the context. Is the customer trying to register, to log in, to maybe do a reset password, or trying to make a transaction? So all this contextual information could be also very interesting. So where we can help is actually with our number inside API. So this API will give you some information about the who of the phone number. Is the type of the phone number, what network has been ported, could be interesting. Is it roaming somewhere? Because it could be interesting. Maybe you see a transaction coming in with a very large amount. You have a phone number on file of your customer, and maybe the phone number belongs to a UK carrier, but is maybe roaming, and you see the transaction coming from Nigeria. And so maybe you want to check if the phone is roaming in Nigeria. And maybe if not roaming in Nigeria, maybe it's a problem. So maybe you should flag the transaction, or maybe decline the transaction. where we have another product, the Verify API, that will help you to do a one-time font verification. And so that will take care of some number that you don't want to allow, like a VoIP number or this type of thing. And on top of that, we have also a Verify SDK that will help you to actually correlate the application, the phone number, and the device. So these three components in one place. And that will really help you to actually maybe trust the customer. And also will allow you to do cross-application, a single sign-on if you want, or multi-device. And so the user can switch from a mobile app to a web application. So that's where basically we can help. And so let's have a look at what's going on behind the scene. So we expose an API. And so behind the scene, we do number validation. So we will exclude void number, toll-free, premium number. Then we have a workflow routing. So depending on the destination, we can adapt the type of message you want to send. So for instance, we have seen that it's more effective to send a 6-digit PIN code in Japan. It converts better than a 4-digit PIN. And in Mexico, it's the opposite. And don't ask me why. It's just a statistic we have collected over the year. But this thing requires a lot of testing. So we provide you all this thing out of the box. Then we have this, depending also on this destination, we can use SMS or text-to-speech. So text-to-speech is just an automated voice call. And here is the same. It's way better to send a text-to-speech to Argentina than sending a SMS. The conversion is very different. And so we provide all this template management. We provide the kind of failover mechanism if one thing doesn't work and so on. And behind the scene, we have this technology called adaptive routing that basically find at a given time what is the best route to deliver, let's say, an SMS to a given place. And this engine is fed by millions of data every day. And we do some historical analysis and also some predictive analysis to figure out what is the best route at a given time. And then we have this direct-to-carrier model. So we can deliver a message to all the network around the world, but also we can cover in one hop. So basically, we are directly connected to 50% of the carrier around the globe, and which is not very common. So you will find a lot of SMS aggregator, but those guys, they are actually buying from us. So that's the way. And also, we hide the complexity of the carrier. So you don't need to know that, for instance, to deliver a one-time password to France, that you need to have a shortcode. And actually, you don't want to buy a shortcode for that in France, because the process will take probably 1 year. It will cost you a lot of money. And so we have done that from you. And other places, like in the US, we will actually use some long virtual number to deliver the message, and so on. So we make you compliant with every country. And that's actually a very interesting benefit. And finally, what is interesting about the Verify API is only if the verification works, you will be charged for it. So if we don't deliver, if we don't make it happen, you are not being charged for it. So then I think it's a very good incentive for us, because we try to make it work. That's our advantage. And then on top of that, you have a lot of conversion data you can see online and to help you to fine-tune your application, especially the UI. Because again, what we have seen in the last few years, we have been doing that, is most of the time what drives the conversion down is really the user interface that you are building. And we have actually a lot of guideline around that. So let's try to do a demo. And so we are not sure about it. That's why we put the picture. So you never know. So Sid here built this kind of to-do list application using our Verify SDK on iOS. So it's a very simple application. So we just want to show how you can use two-factor authentication. So it will register. No. Yeah. So we send the verification. We should get a message. Here we go. So now we are. So now, when you check PIN, so basically send an API request to our server, so we actually validate the PIN and what the application sending to us, and actually the customer is getting charged. What you can also do during the check, we can give you some information. So for instance, when you send the first request, you can send some information about the IP address of the device and all this kind of thing. And when you do the check, we can also correlate this information. Because sometimes we have seen some people actually putting on Mechanical Turk some phone numbers, so people are using this system to actually do two-factor authentication. So then we can prevent that. So now we can just add some item to our to-do list. So that's what it is. It's very simple. So if we switch back now to the laptop, we can go online. So we have the same thing. I log to the application on the web. So you can actually, if you want to play with it, you can go to todo-verify.demo.nexmo.dincha. You can use your thing directly. When you enter the phone number, make sure to add it in the international format. So it's asking me for a PIN code. I just receive it, 5632. So I can see what Sid enter. So I can add some item here, and so I can delete as well. So what I'd like to show you now is I have another version of this application where I want to secure some action. So I enter again, go to the application, another PIN. 1903. Okay, so now I can add this item. And now if I want to delete, it's actually asking me to do that 1392. So it's actually very easy to add in your existing flow two-factor authentication. So if I look, so all this demo is actually online, so you can play with it. So basically, I can show you here the diff of the code between the two. So the one in pink is actually when I want to delete the item from the to-do list. So this is the one in pink. And if I want to add the two-factor authentication, it's the green part. So it's basically just a couple of line of code to add into your existing code. So it's quite easy, I would say. So again, you can play with it online if you want. So we show you how you can do phone verification at registration time, also during the logging, and also where you can actually enable it to secure some action. You can configure it in a very different way. So if you want to do single sign-on between application and device, you can fine-tune the time to live of your one-time password. We also do push notification. So in some case, depending on the level of risk, you can see if you want to do, instead of sending a text message or instead of sending a text-to-speech call, you can do also push notification. So it could be also seamless push notification. The SDK will read directly the push notification, so it's totally seamless for the end user. It doesn't need to enter anything. So it's already, everything is actually part of our SDK. So you can see everything online. So if you visit our GitHub, github.com/Nexmo, all our SDK are open source. So the Android, iOS, and JavaScript. You can also check our HTTP API for Verify on our documentation. The to-do list demo that Sid put together, you can see that also on our GitHub. Just one more thing about Nexmo. So we have been around for 5 years, and we help a lot of customers to acquire user, especially on the messaging app. So people like Line, Snapchat, WeChat, WhatsApp, all of them are using us to actually acquire customer globally. We have 100K developer on our platform, a bit more than 2,000 enterprise, some from the financial industry, like the Commonwealth Bank of Australia, the Bank of Jerusalem, and some people like a new kind of player in the financial industry like Transfer2, so use us to do some two-factor authentication. We have done a bit more than 6 billion API call last year. So yeah, so that's it for me.